Hello there, I'm the 996. In today's video, it's about some great writing advice I got from reading Stephen King's On Writing. It's a memoir slash writing book, that is about basically the craft of writing along with some interesting facts about Stephen King's life. One thing I really wanted to start this video out with was how Stephen King is someone who got a lot of rejections. Now, I know that might be surprising to some people because when we think of Stephen King, we think, okay, he's famous. You don't have to have ever read one of his books or watched one of his movies and you know who he is. But he talks about there being so many rejections that he had a large box of rejections that are hanging over his bed. It was a box or some kind of container when he was a teenager. I mean, that's a lot of rejections. If Stephen King, someone as prolific as he is, got that many rejections, that means that no matter what, we have to make sure that we keep working on our craft and not be discouraged. Another thing that was great is that he mentioned theme. He said you shouldn't really be too concerned what the theme of your story is during the first draft. Now, I might disagree with that a little bit. I think if you know what the theme is before you go into your first draft, write it down in a few sentences, at least have that in your mind. But one of the things I do definitely agree with is that you're adding the theme in the second draft and you're making sure you're very aware of it. For instance, this is a spoiler alert. For anyone who hasn't read or watched the movie Carrie, in the book Carrie by Stephen King, there is a teenage girl from a very fanatically religious mother who has telekinesis, which means she can move objects by simply thinking about it. The girl uses her powers, and he mentions theme is that her period comes on the beginning of the book, and these horrible, really mean girls are throwing sanitary napkins at her because the girl's never been informed when you become a certain age, you become a teenager, or whatever age you are when you get your menstrual cycle, that you will have a period, and she is freaking out because she just thinks she's dying because she's bleeding so much. So that had to do with blood. And there's another scene when the same girl, Carrie, goes to prom, and she's on stage, and this mean girl gets pig's blood and pours it all over her on stage, which is absolutely horrendous. And then there's another scene where this other girl who is connected with Carrie, she thinks she's pregnant and she realizes that she's not when she gets her period. Stephen King mentioned how there are three pivotal points in the story: the beginning, the middle, and the end, that all dealt with blood. But he didn't mean to do that. It must have been something subconscious, and he was working through that afterwards. So maybe if you kind of know what your theme is, or you're not 100% sure what your theme is, if you're able to look at your story afterwards and pinpoint certain things that might seem like they're a theme, think about it. Because maybe not have to be something as gory as blood. Is there a theme of a symbol, a theme of traditions, a theme of some type of ritual? Just go through your story and your second draft and be more aware to figure out what your theme is. If you can't figure it out, make sure you make a theme, because as Stephen King is mentioning in his memoir slash writing book, a story should be about something. Another tip that Stephen King gave is when you're writing a description, write a description about what's important. If you're describing how, for instance, he mentioned a description of someone coming into a dark lit bar, make sure you're describing it for a reason. Is it going to be important to the story? Is someone having a specific shirt that you're going to a lot of detail about? Something that's going to be important later on to the story, is important to understanding the character. Let me see, another tip Stephen King gave was take with the good ideas that come to you. Don't just write everything down, but the ideas that stick with you, work on those ideas. What he meant by that is, as writers, we have lots of ideas. You could be inspired by a TV show. You can be inspired by a butterfly flying around. You never know when inspiration strikes, and you're going to have lots of ideas. But the ideas that keep coming back to you, those are the ideas that you should stay with. And also, the road to hell is paved with adverbs. Now you might say, what does that mean? Usually if we use an adverb, that means that we could replace it with a stronger verb instead. For instance, if you say, she ran quickly across the room, trying to escape the tiger's rage. You could say, she dashed across the room, trying to escape the tiger's rage. You see how that one word, instead of ran quickly, was a lot more precise? You see, another tip that Stephen King mentioned is he believed that you should write in your first draft, and it should be no more than 1 season, 3 months to take you to write the first draft. He does admit with 2 novels that they were the exceptions to the rule, and that it took him a lot longer to write those 2 novels. One, because his story was a lot longer, and I believe it was The Stand, and it was just taking him a lot longer trying to write this epic sort of sci-fi story, and another story that also took him a long time. But you know what? I think this is great advice. Okay, so excluding his exceptions to the rules, if you're writing a story, you're just trying to hurry up and get it down, you're not worrying about if every sentence is perfect, if the way you describe this guy's hair is supposed to be so romantic and so hot. You're not worrying about that. You're not worrying about describing how some type of dress flowed on this woman and how everyone was envious of how beautiful she was. You're not worried about the descriptions or if everything's in the right place, and you keep going back and you let fear, maybe sometimes it could be fear of the act of writing, actually finishing something and possibly putting it out to the world. Maybe it could be fear that your writing isn't going to be up to par with one of your favorite writers. It could be fear of so many different things, but you're not letting the fear overtake you if you're quickly, within a short period of time, putting down your first draft. Another thing that Stephen King likes to do is that he mentioned that his first drafts are not perfect. He gave an example of something that he wrote, the first draft, and showed the lines when the differences that he made with his first draft and his second draft. Now, granted, this is still Stephen King, so the stories to me seem like pretty good, but he mentioned step by step why he made those editorial changes. So that should be clear that if Stephen King is saying that his first draft, that he has to go and scratch through things and rearrange things and so forth and make sure that he's making his words more precise so that the story will be painting the picture that he wants in his head on the page, then I'm sure all of us who are not Stephen King have to do that as well. And finally, one thing I wanted to mention is Stephen King mentions taking care of his health, and he mentioned being married to his wife. Now, I'm not in any way saying anyone should be married and I have to be married in order to be a good writer. I'm not married, so I would be a hypocrite if I said that. What I am saying is, he mentioned taking care of his health. He mentioned how he became, for instance, he used to be an alcoholic and he used to do drugs. And one time his wife Tabitha, who was also a writer, came to him with an intervention saying he had to either get cleaned up or she and the kids were going to leave him. And that really made him realize that he didn't want to lose her. You know, there's a misconception if you're a writer that you have to be some type of state, some drug-fueled state for your creativity to really come out, or you have to be under the influence of maybe even alcohol. If you want to drink when you write sometimes, go ahead. But please don't feel like you have to be under some type of illegal substance or any type of other substance all the time in order to write. You can be a writer without having to be on drugs or without having to continuously be drunk. So that was my video for today. Those are the tips that Stephen King had in his book that I really agree with. So does anyone else have anything else about Stephen King that they thought I hadn't touched, that they read this memoir and they thought that they agreed with? You can leave a comment below. If you want to say something else about this video, if you agree with me, if you disagree about something, you can leave a comment below. If you like it, give me a thumbs up, and please hit the little bell and subscribe. I'm the 996, and thank you for watching this video.